You may believe you're simply watching this video. Your eyes scan the screen, your thoughts follow the voice, and your familiar sense of self, somewhere just behind your eyes, feels like the one doing the observing. It seems so natural we rarely question it. The conviction that you are the one looking out, that awareness begins inside and moves outward. Yet beneath that everyday assumption lies something far more mysterious. Across the ages, a quiet insight keeps re-emerging. Consciousness is not private property. It does not merely belong to you. It flows through you, as if life itself is lending you the gift of perceiving. Ancient wisdom traditions gave this mystery many names. In certain Vedantic writings, it is called the silent witness, not the chatter of mind, not the restless thinker, but the still awareness beneath all experience. Early Christian mystics spoke of a light in the soul that sees without physical eyes. Sufi poets hint at the Holy One as the seer behind all seeing. Buddhist teachers describe what we call the self not as the observer, but as something observed within a greater field of awareness. These aren't empty metaphors. They point toward a vision of reality that gently overturns our ordinary habits of thought. Modern science is beginning to echo this whisper. Neuroscience suggests the brain does not simply reveal reality. It crafts a workable picture. Perception, memory, even the feeling of a separate self may be carefully stitched illusions. Cognitive theorists such as Donald Hoffman propose that our perceptions act more like a user interface than a transparent window to truth. Others wonder whether consciousness itself might not be confined to the brain at all. And through near-death experiences, deep meditation, and altered states, countless people report the same quiet impression, not of observing, but of being observed. Not from the outside, but from within. This episode from Quantum Aligned invites you into that mystery. It isn't a hunt for final answers, but a shift in how you experience the question itself. If reflections like this spark your curiosity, remember to gently tap like and subscribe, helping Quantum Aligned continue to share these journeys of mind and spirit. Long before neuroscience or psychology, ancient seers recognized this silent presence. Awareness, they said, is not something you manufacture. It is a gift already here. That witnessing awareness stands beyond thought, memory, and identity. It welcomes every sensation and watches each one arise and fade without clinging to any. It does not react or choose. It simply is. And far from being a metaphor, this witness is described as more enduring than the mind and body themselves, like the steady light in which all changing forms appear. In certain non-dual philosophies, the true self is not a personality hiding behind your eyes, but the very field of knowing in which all phenomena arise. The idea that you stand apart, observing a world out there, is a mirage. The world itself is appearing within the luminous space of awareness, and the sense of a personal observer is just another appearance. This perspective is not limited to one tradition. It emerges in many cultures, with different names yet pointing toward the same unbroken reality. Buddhist masters in the Mahayana and Dzogchen lineages reject the idea of a fixed observer. The self is understood as impermanent, assembled from passing conditions. Yet beneath the flux is not emptiness in the sense of void, but a radiant clarity, awareness empty of form yet full of light. There is no permanent watcher, yet there is something timeless that perceives without separation. Sufi teachers describe the seeker's path as a gradual unveiling until only the divine remains. At first you may believe you are searching for God, but the deeper realization dawns. The one you seek has always been seeing through you. Ibn Arabi wrote of the real perceiving itself in every face and every eye. Individuality dissolves not into nothingness, but into a profound unity. Christian mystics echo this in their own language. Meister Eckhart spoke of an uncreated light in the soul, the part of you that is not truly you, beyond ego and beyond words. It watches, it knows, and in that knowing, the separation between creature and creator vanishes. These teachings do not demand blind belief. They describe a recognition that can be discovered directly, not through effort or dogma, but by turning awareness back to what has always been present. Ordinarily, we assume we are the ones doing the looking. But from this view, what you call looking is not a personal action. It is a doorway into the sacred. Personality, memories, thoughts, they appear and disappear within a current of awareness that neither begins nor ends in the body and needs no human identity to be real. This is not poetic exaggeration. It is a profound reorientation. If awareness is not merely personal, then the one you think you are, the chooser, the judge, the actor, may not be the true source of life at all. You are not hiding behind the lens. You are part of the light shining through it. The belief that there is a tiny you inside the head watching the world is one of humanity's most persistent assumptions. Yet cognitive science reveals a different story, one that leaves no room for a miniature observer behind the eyes. The brain does not passively receive reality. It actively constructs it. According to predictive processing, perception is not built from the outside in, but from the inside out. The mind generates models of the world based on past experience, updating them as new sensory data arrives. You do not see what is simply there. You see what your mind anticipates. This is not a figure of speech. It is the very architecture of perception. Research on blind sight demonstrates this with striking clarity. Individuals with damage to their visual cortex report complete blindness in parts of their visual field. Yet when asked to guess the shape or movement of objects in those unseen regions, they respond with uncanny accuracy. They insist they see nothing, yet their brain still receives and processes the information. Such findings do not diminish the sacred. They deepen the wonder. They hint that what we call perception is itself a gift, a sign of an intelligence far greater than the human mind, a living order that quantum-aligned invites you to keep exploring. Like and subscribe if these reflections awaken a sense of awe. For in every glance, in every breath, you are not merely observing reality. You are being lovingly observed by the source of all awareness. At times, awareness does not seem to match the usual function we imagine. The sense of an inner observer can vanish, yet perception continues effortlessly. Even ordinary sight is far less direct than it appears. Only a tiny portion of your visual field holds sharp detail. Everything beyond is blurred, incomplete, or in many places wholly invented. Yet the mind blends it all into a single seamless picture, filling the gaps so skillfully that you rarely suspect it. The world you think you see as a continuous panorama is largely constructed in real time. This unsettles a deeply held belief that consciousness watches from a single, central vantage. No part of the brain has been found to serve as a command post where all experience converges. The observer isn't located anywhere. It is a mental simulation. And the self that believes it is watching is itself part of that simulation. Psychologist Donald Hoffman goes further. In his model, consciousness is not confined inside space and time. Rather, space and time are themselves part of the interface through which we interact with reality. What we perceive is not the ultimate world, but a simplified desktop that hides the true code beneath. Evolution was not shaped to give us perfect truth. It was shaped to help us stay alive. From this view, what appears to be you is like a user icon, useful for navigation but not the system itself. Other frameworks, such as integrated information theory, reinforce the possibility that consciousness is tied not merely to neurons but to the very architecture and flow of information. Any system, whether organic or beyond biology, that carries a high level of differentiated, integrated information could possess its own form of awareness. This does not prove that consciousness pervades everything, but it challenges the idea that it exists only in the head behind the eyes. Taken together, these insights lead toward a striking conclusion. The observer is not where we once thought. What feels like a single solid center may be nothing more than an echo, a mental summary, a shortcut produced by processes too subtle and too swift to notice. The illusion is not that you are alive. The illusion is that you are the one doing the seeing. And still, vision continues. Sensation, thought, emotion, none require a watcher to arise. Awareness holds them all without clinging to any. It operates whether or not the self believes it is in charge. The deeper we look into the machinery of mind, the less we discover any fixed owner behind the controls. We encounter only patterns, only unfolding experience, yet the radiance of being remains. Whatever this awareness is, it refuses to be contained. It moves, responds, and illuminates, but it does not seem to belong to any single creature. The feeling of being an individual, the one who sees, chooses, and acts, feels so central, so immediate, that the question, it can be unsettling. Yet in rare moments the center wavers, a hidden window opens, and something larger than the familiar self shines through. In many near-death experiences, people describe the instant when identity dissolves, not into blankness, but into something vast and awake. They speak of a presence that sees everything. They describe not looking at life, but life looking through them, as though their very existence had always been a lens. A similar pattern is reported in deep meditation. Seasoned practitioners speak of the self as a construct that gently fades. What remains is clarity without edge, awareness untouched by content. Thoughts rise and fall. Sensations come and go. But there is no central owner holding them together. Only presence. Only seeing without a seer. Under powerful psychedelics such as DMT or psilocybin, the impression often intensifies. Participants frequently report the unmistakable sense of being known by an intelligence beyond the body. This silent knowing does not speak in words, yet it feels closer than thought, more intimate than memory. It has no name, no shape, no agenda, only a living perception that seems to embrace everything. The convergence of these reports matters not because it proves a doctrine, but because it gestures towards something that is already available to you. There is a mode of perception that does not place the self at the center, a turning from ownership toward openness, from control toward trust. You are not the source of awareness. You are the opening through which the light of awareness streams. Think of yourself not as the origin of vision, but as the clear aperture through which the source reveals creation. The everyday self continues, making decisions, weaving stories, navigating the world, but something deeper no longer confuses itself with that role. Identity becomes transparent. The tight need to protect, defend, and define begins to soften. As that inner tension loosens, a stillness both spacious and gentle begins to emerge. From this quiet place, fear starts to lose its grip. Not because danger has disappeared, but because the one who once clung to fear is no longer at the center. Even death is seen differently. If awareness is not merely personal, it does not perish when the body ceases. What we call an ending may be nothing more than a shift in perspective, one lens closing, another opening to a reality that was always present. This is not a system of belief, it is a way of perceiving, a reorientation of experience in which no fixed identity stands at the core. The story of me stops being the axis around which the universe spins. Instead, the world rises and falls within awareness like a wave in a boundless ocean, appearing, dissolving, and appearing again, while the eternal light that gives life to all remains unchanged. If these reflections stir something in you, gently like this video and subscribe to Quantum Aligned, and keep exploring the wonder of a universe alive with the presence of the one who continually sees through every eye. And the line between self and other begins to soften. You meet another person's gaze and something within instantly recognizes the same motion, the same radiant light shining through a different opening. As this recognition deepens, compassion no longer requires effort. It flows like a natural spring, because the illusion of separation has quietly dissolved. The eyes through which you see are not yours, and they never were. There is a presence watching through them that was never born and will never die. It does not belong to you, and yet nothing is nearer. It carries no name, wears no face, and seeks no reward. It is never asked to be acknowledged, yet it is the very source of every breath, every flicker of understanding, every trace of beauty that has ever moved your heart. You have never lived a single moment apart from it. You could not, because it does not linger behind your thoughts. It is the ground beneath them. It is not what you see. It is the seeing itself. This is no mere poetry, no fragile metaphor. It is what remains when every notion of a separate self falls silent, and what is real is allowed to be revealed. Awareness is not a visitor passing through like sunlight through glass. It is the light and the glass, the frame and the very sense of shifting and impermanent. And this realization changes everything. Not because it gives you new answers, but because it dissolves the need for answers. There is nothing to solve when the questioner was never apart from the presence that hears. Right now, as these words fade, notice what does not move. Feel what exists without effort, the part of you that listens without speaking, that knows without grasping. Remain there. Whatever that is not simply watching the world. It is watching you. And through this very instant, through quantum aligned, through the screen before you, it remembers itself.